The PGA Tour handed Tiger Woods a golden ticket. He never used it. That is the story that is making sponsors go completely stunned and sending the tour into big trouble they did not see coming. In June 2024, the tour's policy board voted to create a category that had never existed before. The threshold was set at 80-plus career wins, a number only one human being on the planet had reached. The exemption guaranteed Woods access to all 8 signature events, those elite limited field tournaments worth $20 million apiece. They named it the Lifetime Achievement Exemption. They built it around him, for him. Then his Achilles ruptured in March 2025 while he was training at home. Then a collapsed disc at L4/L5 sent him back to the operating table in October 2025 for his 7th back surgery. Then on March 27, 2026, came the arrest, DUI, Jupiter Island, Florida, hydrocodone pills, a rolled Land Rover, and a breathalyzer showing 0.00 for alcohol. By April 1st, Tiger Woods released his statement. He is pulling out. Treatment indefinite leave. The 2026 Masters, indeed, gone. Every remaining signature event, gone. The PGA Tour built a product around a man who cannot be in it. That is big trouble, the kind that does not quietly go away. Subscribe now, because this is not a crisis they can spin their way out of. The financial fallout is staggering. Let's get into it. Let's start with the money, because that is where the damage is most visible. Each of the 8 signature events on the 2026 PGA Tour calendar carries a $20 million purse. These are not ordinary tournaments. They were designed from the ground up as premium products, limited fields, elite players, maximum television exposure. The entire concept was built on one foundational promise to sponsors: the best players in the world in the same place at the same time. Tiger Woods was supposed to be the crown jewel of that promise. Genesis renewed their title sponsorship of his tournament at Riviera Country Club for 4 more years. That deal was announced in February 2026, just weeks before the arrest. On paper, it looked like a vote of confidence. In reality, the Genesis Invitational had already been running without Woods as a competitor for years. He hosted it. He appeared in the broadcast booth. He shook hands and posed for photographs. But he never actually teed it up, and sponsors who are writing checks for $20 million events expect more than a host who waves from the clubhouse. Now consider what the tour actually sold to those sponsors when they introduced the signature event model in 2023. The pitch was straightforward: fewer tournaments, stronger fields, bigger moments. The idea was to concentrate star power so that every signature event week felt like a major. Woods was central to that pitch, not because anyone expected him to win, but because his name in a field changes the entire commercial conversation around an event. Television ratings, ticket sales, corporate hospitality, merchandise, every single one of those revenue streams responds to the presence of Tiger Woods in a way that no other player on earth can replicate. Scottie Scheffler is the best golfer in the world right now and has been for 2 years. But Scheffler does not move the needle the way Woods does. That is not a criticism of Scheffler. It is simply the commercial reality of what Tiger Woods means to professional golf. Even at 50, even injured, even just standing on a driving range. The PGA Tour understood this. That is precisely why they invented a rule that had never existed before in the sport's history. The Lifetime Achievement Exemption was not a courtesy. It was a business decision. They needed his name attached to these events, and here is where the real trouble lives. The exemption still exists. It is sitting there in the rulebook, attached to a threshold of 80-plus wins belonging exclusively to one man. But the man himself is now in a treatment facility outside the United States, dealing with the consequences of a prescription drug dependency that has quietly shadowed years of surgical recovery. The tour cannot rescind the exemption. They cannot pretend it was not created, and they cannot replace what it was meant to represent. So what exactly happened on March 27, 2026? According to the Martin County Sheriff's arrest affidavit, Woods was driving on Jupiter Island when his Land Rover crossed the road's double solid lines, clipped a truck with a trailer attached and rolled onto its side. Officers who arrived at the scene described him as sweating profusely with lethargic and slow movements. He agreed to a breathalyzer test, which came back at 0.00. No alcohol whatsoever. When deputies asked for a urine sample, he refused. 2 white hydrocodone pills were found in his pants pocket. Woods told officers he had taken prescription medications. He was charged with DUI with property damage and refusal to submit to a lawful test, both misdemeanors under Florida law. He spent the night in Martin County Jail before being released around 11 p.m. He has pleaded not guilty and retained Douglas Duncan, the same criminal defense attorney who represented him following his 2017 DUI arrest. That 2017 arrest is worth understanding in this context. Back then, deputies found Woods asleep behind the wheel of a running vehicle on the side of a road in Palm Beach County. The toxicology report showed 5 different substances in his system, including Vicodin and Dilaudid, both opioid pain medications. He eventually pleaded guilty to reckless driving, completed a diversion program, and entered inpatient treatment to address his dependency on prescription medications. He got through it. He came back. He won the 2019 Masters. It remains one of the most remarkable sporting comebacks in history. But the 2026 situation is different in one important way. In 2017, Woods had a functioning golf career ahead of him. He was 41 years old and physically capable of competing at the highest level. In 2026, he is 50, recovering from his 7th back surgery, dealing with a body that has been through 2 car crashes, over a dozen surgical procedures, a ruptured Achilles tendon, and a lumbar disc replacement. The road back to competitive golf is not just uncertain, it is genuinely unclear whether his body can support it at all. He acknowledged this himself at the Genesis Invitational press conference in February 2026. Speaking to reporters at Riviera Country Club, he said that the disc replacement had been particularly challenging because of his previously fused spine. He also said quite openly that he had been thinking about the PGA Tour Champions as a realistic competitive option, specifically because players on that circuit are permitted to use golf carts, which would remove the burden of walking 4 rounds on a compromised lower body. That tells you everything about where his head was before the arrest. He was not mapping out a return to the PGA Tour's signature events. He was exploring whether a cart-based senior circuit might be the most physically manageable path back to competitive golf. The arrest ended even that conversation for now, and the PGA Tour is left managing the fallout without any clear answers to offer sponsors or broadcasters. Brian Rolap, the tour's relatively new CEO, who was in attendance at Riviera in February for that same Genesis Invitational week, has been tasked with restructuring the competitive model of professional golf. His future competition committee, which Woods chairs, has been working on schedule changes, potential venue relocations, and a leaner overall tournament structure. Those conversations are now happening without the most prominent voice at the table. Woods is not just absent as a player, he is absent as a power broker. And in the current political landscape of professional golf, with LIV integration talks still unresolved, the FedEx Cup playoff format under review, and signature event scheduling in flux, his absence from the boardroom carries weight that is separate from and arguably greater than his absence from the tee box. The Ryder Cup captaincy question is another casualty of this situation. Woods had been weighing whether to accept the role of United States captain for the 2027 matches in Ireland. The PGA of America had already waited longer than usual for an answer. When the arrest happened on March 27th, that decision effectively stopped being a realistic near-term possibility. No formal announcement has been made, but the direction is obvious. So step back, look at the full picture that is formed. The PGA Tour created a custom exemption for Tiger Woods in June 2024. He has not used it in 2025. He has not used it once in 2026. He is now in treatment with no return date confirmed. The sponsors who invested in signature events were sold on a model where his participation was at least a possibility. That possibility is now the most uncertain it has ever been. Genesis renewed their sponsorship at Riviera anyway, which speaks to the long-term faith some partners still hold in the Woods name. But faith and certainty are very different commercial positions, and the gap between them is where the tour's real vulnerability sits. There is no villain in this story, not really. Woods is dealing with the long-term physical and pharmaceutical consequences of one of the most injury-riddled careers in sporting history. The tour made a reasonable business decision in creating that exemption. The sponsors made reasonable investments, but reasonable decisions can still produce unreasonable outcomes. And right now, the outcome is a premium event structure missing its most valuable hypothetical participant. A rulebook containing a category built for a man who is not playing, and a set of corporate partners quietly recalculating what their money is actually buying. The PGA Tour is not collapsing. Let's be clear about that. Scottie Scheffler is the most dominant player in the world. The fields at signature events are genuinely strong. The product on the course is good, but the product they sold, that included Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods has pulled out of all of it. That is the gap between what was promised and what was delivered. And until he walks back through those ropes, healthy, present, and competing, that gap is not going anywhere. If you made it this far, you already know this channel covers the stories that actually matter in professional golf. Not just the leaderboards, but the business, the politics, and the moments that reshape the sport. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. There is a lot more coming, and you do not want to be catching up later.